First things first.
Just not necessarily in that order.
Hi guys, I'm Jess, voice and face of TheRealCamFam on Twitch.
And I'm Justin, the off-screen voice you hear on Twitch. And this is the CamFam campaign, where we talk about all things geeky, nerdy, spazzy, whatever you want that we dive into all week. And on and off stream, we talk about this kind of stuff constantly.
All the time.
So we wanted to involve you guys in the conversation a little bit. And this one's a doozy.
Has it got a plot hole?
It's gonna leave some plot holes, maybe some coincidences and irony.
Maybe a bit of a paradox?
Paradoxes. There we go. That's probably what we're talking about.
There we go.
Well, it would have helped if we would have started at the beginning instead. Okay.
Or we started at the end.
We might have started at the end.
Who knows?
It doesn't really matter. So, paradoxes. That's one of my favorite things that appear over and over in sci-fi and fantasy.
And it's a great philosophy thing.
It is.
It's
got its root in philosophy.
I love it.
Did we want to start there? The couple of philosophical ones before we get into their sci-fi geeky implications, because there's a couple of really good philosophy ones that have been talked about for hundreds of years.
Yeah,
so,
the first one that comes to mind is actually you taught it to me via your old manager of the job, basically, you have now.
The ship of Theseus.
The ship of Theseus.
Or the broom.
The broom of Theseus.
The broom of Theseus. So the ship of Theseus is a pretty simple one. Others may have heard of it. At what point of replacing parts does the original not remain original anymore?
Exactly.
So if you take a ship, you replace the sail, then the mast, then the deck, then the hull, then the rudder. At which point did it change ships? At which point did it become a new ship? It's not when you rename it. It's not when you change the hull. I don't know when it is, and that's the beauty of philosophy and philosophical questions, is there's no right one answer.
There's so many things that you could use as an example for that. Cars, homes,
definitely
computers,
brooms.
I've
used brooms because generally a broom is, we think of it two parts. That's it.
You have the
broom head,
the broom head and the stick.
That's it. So if you
their handle.
You get the handle, you break it, and you replace that with a new handle. Same looking handle, same brand. You spin it on there, you got a new handle, you throw the old one out. Is it a new broom? And then, a few years later, when the head gets all dusty and clumped with hair, and you replace that, even if it's the same Lippmann head, is it the same broom? Or is it a different broom?
No, the question is why don't you just go get a new broom?
Well, because you only had to replace a part. You only broke part of it. And brooms are expensive. Okay? But at what point did it become a new broom versus the same broom?
Exactly.
Do you ever regard it as a different broom? It's always been hanging on that same hook. You took it out, you used it, you swapped out the handle, you put it back on the same hook. Is it a different broom? Or in essence, is it the same broom?
I probably wouldn't even see a difference.
Exactly.
In my mind.
Because it would be the essence of the broom.
It's the tool. It's the tool I need to use to clean. So I'm not going to regard it as something different. I'm just going to be, get the broom. You
understand it as the spirit of the broom.
Exactly.
It's not the object. If you said, go get me the broom, and I brought you a totally different broom than you usually use, you might be a few strokes of the broom in before you're even like, where'd you get this broom? Like, to you, it's the broom. It's doing the job, and you're respecting the spirit of the broom.
Exactly.
So, but I'm not going to say that that's the right answer. One of our followers, viewers, they may have they might be like, as soon as I replace the first piece, I know it's different.
No, that's why it's a great philosophy question.
I love it.
And a
it's
great
one of
way
the
to look at
simplest
it.
ones, though. So, what other ones pop up?
What about Schrodinger's cat? It is the first time I ever heard about it was in The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, kind of recently that you heard about it, and it's very simple. It's really just the philosophy of the unknown.
Exactly.
And at what point does something become a matter of fact as a question of a theoretical?
Yeah.
So the basic idea: you have a cat in the box, and it's either alive or dead.
And you don't know.
But you don't know until you open the box. So, until you open the box, it's both. Is the idea. Philosophically, it is both. Because you can regard it as alive, you can regard it as dead. You have no information to go on. So, with you not knowing, it's not only either. That when something is either, it has to be respected as both at the same time.
I mean, and we see that so much. Because say you get a box for Christmas, it is a reused box. You don't know it until you open it. If it's the toaster that Mom got for
opening
whatever,
a new checking account.
Exactly.
You know? Or if you just got a new toaster.
Or if you just got a brand new toaster.
Yeah.
So until you open that box and find out what's inside of it.
It could be anything.
It could be anything.
It could literally be anything. And I feel like there are way deeper implications of Schrodinger's cat, philosophy in very simply, when you're in the military, you have to list a faith. Yeah. Always. One of those listed faiths is atheism. I'm just going to leave that there.
Yep.
It's not a faith, but you have to put something. So while you're there, it basically regards a non-believer as still a form of believer. And that, I feel like, is at the root of the idea that until you know, it's everything.
Yeah, and that's what skepticism
is. It is, in that it's a great way to look at it. It harkens back to our earlier idea about light and void and ambiguity of good and evil. That light in the context of World of Warcraft, for one, or sci-fi tropes in general, is often seen as the good, the holy, the benevolent. And the opposite of that is dark, evil, unknown. But that's not what it is. And that's what I really applaud, say, World of Warcraft for doing, is the dark, as we would think of it, is not necessarily evil in any way. And it's not even unknown. It's known that if in the light we have a concrete set of facts, in the dark is everything else. So, for instance, it's as I've regarded in the past as neverything. Maybe we'll do an episode on that concept one day. But it's the idea that neverything is far greater than everything. Because neverything is all the things that weren't in that everything category.
Yep.
So it's every life that never came to be, every early snuff out, every car accident that took that young driver. It's every one of their memories, histories, past, lovers, everything else is there in that.
And so, can that tie into paradoxes?
And it does, because that's the idea of Schrodinger's cat. It's not as simple as just a cat in a box in the trunk of a car. That has nothing to do with it. It has to do with that which we don't know yet still exists. It's still a possibility. Think about it in the way of, and it's comforting if you think about it in a way, to me, about, like, say, mental health, anxiety. Those things that we tend to become anxious about or give us severe anxiety. Not for those who are troubled with clinical anxiety issues. I'm saying a normal, average human being in their the anxiety they experience.
So, like, for instance, we had a bad tire on our Mercury. No, not the Mercury, but it doesn't matter but we had a bad tire on one of our cars, and we were afraid to take really long road trips. But we promised a fellow guildmate that we would be there for his college graduation. And we didn't know what was going to happen, so we took that risk, that drive. What was going to happen with that tire? Were we going to make it, or were we going to end up on the road?
It's nice that you kind of tie it to that. That is the real life implication of the unknown, but that's also our entire youth was like that until we became parents. That we didn't care if we were going to... Maybe we'd end up stranded. Who cares? I don't have to work tomorrow. We'll figure it out. That was our 20s right there in a nutshell. Guess we'll find out. It was neverything. We didn't care yet. The world was at our fingertips. So it does tie in to philosophy and paradoxes in a way. Because Schrodinger's cat, Ship of Theseus... These aren't paradoxes. This is just to talk about a few light philosophical ideas before diving into the idea of a paradox, because that too is just as philosophical.
Exactly.
So these are all hypothetical ideas, and paradoxes are no different.
But in a way, they
can happen.
Yes. Just
because something is hypothetical doesn't mean it can't happen. It can happen. It's just the idea that it hasn't to us. We don't. These are just circumstantial ideas.
Exactly.
So what else? Because Schrodinger's cat, that's kind of a softball. You're lobbing them at me. You got something better.
How about a celebrity paradox? We have one great example, and that's Friends. And that's
This one's
Chandler,
a more minor, or a minor and modern one, but
Chandler
interesting
Bing
nonetheless. Yep.
And Joey Tribbiani loved Die Hard.
Watch it every Christmas. It's a Christmas movie.
A tradition for themselves to watch this over and over and over again. They would even repeat the lines.
Yep.
So what happens when Bruce Willis makes a guest star on the show?
For a few episodes. It wasn't just one.
And they don't go, hey, you
look kind of like... You would love at least there... An Easter egg would have deflated the celebrity paradox there.
Yes.
Because the celebrity paradox is a very minor one. It's not undoing time. It's really just more of a plot hole. Yeah. This one is a plot hole. A celebrity paradox is in no way a paradox because it is an instrument of writing. It is not real. So when you have this character, you could have avoided it by just stitching it together with just a... Doesn't he look kind of... Nah. Just that alone would have answered it. We would have put it to bed. We would have been like, all right, good. They threw back to it.
What they did do, though, for... do you remember the show Mad About You?
Yeah.
Ursula, or Phoebe. Was on there as Ursula.
Uh-huh. I love that they play it in as her sister.
Yes. So she comes
So it's
in,
kind of... It's in the same
she
universe.
Plays herself as a twin.
Yeah.
She's...
And that's because when Friends came out, Mad About You was still peak. Like, that was still a very popular show.
So then they had two of the women from Mad About You come over and see Phoebe
and mistake her for Ursula.
So
I love it. I love that in that one scene, too, it ties them together. They're the same universe. This is the same city. Yep. It's all happening at the same time.
Exactly.
And it's a wonderful way to get around it.
It's very rare that they do that.
It is very rare.
I mean,
without an intentional tie-in or spin-off.
Or crossovers. I mean, they try it. They've got a few.
Disney's done a ton of those. But those are all very intentional. This, I feel like, was a means to derail the celebrity paradox. And then they just kind of missed it when it came to Emily's dad, Bruce Willis,
Exactly.
It was Emily's dad, right?
No,
one of their dads. One of the girls' dads. And then the other one was dating...
It was the one Ross was girlfriend.
Yep.
One of his many girlfriends.
One of his many girlfriends, yeah. And, yeah, they could have avoided it with just, like, a quick glance.
Look like John McClane.
They don't even have to say it. Like, an Easter egg could have been just so much that the first time they see him, Joey and Chandler look at him and just kind of throw each other a double take and just like, but, nah. It can't be.
Yeah.
That would have been enough.
Exactly.
Without ever specifically saying anything, because then you're getting into licensing issues, and they wouldn't have had to, and then he could have looked over at him and just been like, yippee, and just kind of like walk away. Whatever. And it could have played so many, but it's dangerous. It's a snowball, because how much would have been enough of an Easter egg for those who really love Die Hard?
Oh, we love Easter eggs.
And they're great when they appear, but not when they're done shoddily. That one could have went too far. Still, not a paradox.
It's there.
It's called a paradox. It's not a paradox.
Yeah.
What else?
It could have been played as
We've got better.
Family Guy.
Okay. The grandfather paradox.
Yes.
Okay. Probably one of the most well-known paradoxes.
And you told me recently you had a discussion about it.
Yeah, I was talking about just yesterday or the day before, with a coworker.
Time doesn't matter.
I know. It doesn't really matter when. It's kind of irrelevant. But we were talking about it because he said a paradox. As soon as I said, yeah, we're recording the episode on paradoxes, and he goes, paradox? And I was like, I should understand that somebody who's not a geek and somebody who doesn't steep themselves in sci-fi, fantasy, lore, it's probably a novel concept. People don't necessarily know all about that. It's kind of like how people use words like annihilation wrong. Like, annihilation doesn't mean something blows up. It means two things void each other entirely.
Yeah.
And that's what we get when we have issues of paradoxes like meeting yourself in the past. Not a paradox. So, but the grandfather paradox, one of the easiest ones to explain, but hardest ones for people to wrap their head around, I think.
Yeah.
You go back in time, you kill your own paternal grandfather at least 2 generations back, prior to your father being conceived.
Yeah.
Simple as that. What would happen?
Nothing.
Nothing would happen at all. Not just because the idea is silly, time travel doesn't exist. We could get into all of those, but let's just suspend disbelief and all these things are possible. You do have a time machine. You do go back. You see your grandfather. You're perfectly safe and perfectly able-bodied to take him out. What would happen if you do? You bring back a gun. You're going to overpower him. He doesn't have a gun. You're going to... we go 22 generations back. I like going that far back. I go 22 generations back. And I like it for two reasons. One, of who my ancestor is 22 generations deep. But also the idea of genealogical collapse. But we're not going to get into that one right now. That one's fun. Ask in the comments if you want to know about genealogical collapse. It's a wonderful concept, but it's a real one. It's not philosophy. So the idea is that you go back, though, far enough that you take him out before your progenitor can exist.
Yeah.
So your dad, your grandfather, your great-grandfather never existed. I believe, and it is my working theory, that if you go back in the very millisecond that you pull that trigger, before it hits your ancestor, you would have never went back in time. Yep. It's not that you vanish like a Back to the Future. You're erasing from time. Slowly, your progenitors are erasing from time. That's not how it would happen at all. You wouldn't kill your 22nd great-grandfather and suddenly, slowly, your 21st doesn't exist, then your 20... That's not how it happens. The instant you pull that trigger and the decision is made and it is out there, you now voided you going back in time. Because you never existed.
Yep.
If you never existed, you never took the specific actions necessary to take your grandfather out.
So that gives us the plot hole and the paradox within it, kind of combined for Family Guy with Da Vinci and Stewie.
Very much two
Bertram
separate things.
Who is supposedly...
his hypothetical half-brother.
Hypothetical half-brother.
Potential theoretical half-brother.
Yeah.
Time.
Steals Stewie's... And arch-nemesis.
And his arch-nemesis.
Steals Stewie's...
Because he's also a genius.
Time Machine goes back and tries to delete both himself and Stewie from existence. Mm-hmm. And they end up trapped in the void. And this figures out how to impregnate his grandmother, his ancient grandmother. Yes.
500 years in the past.
After Da Vinci's killed.
Because Da Vinci was killed. So he has to take his place.
Yep.
But the second Da Vinci is killed, Stewie never created a time machine.
Yeah.
Because Stewie never existed.
And you know what is funny, though, is because I don't really think that that's possible unless Stewie gets Da Vinci's bloodline from his mom. Because here's the biggest plot hole I also see, is the Griffins are Irish.
I get it, but they weren't always Irish. They could have been Irish 200 years, and they were Italian for 300. That doesn't necessarily... It is unexplained. That's when it kind of gets into plot hole territory.
That's what I was trying to say.
But no, because Pewter Schmidt is also not an Italian name.
Yeah.
So it has nothing to... One, it's a cartoon.
That's true.
Let's relax. Two, it's 500 years in the past.
Yeah.
And of course, Stewie's ancestors, Leonardo da Vinci.
The greatest inventor?
Yeah, why would he not be? That's a given. I think a monkey writing that show could have just went, you know what? Obviously his ancestors, Da Vinci.
All right.
But it just never would have happened. The main idea being that the second Da Vinci ceases to exist, not only does Stewie not exist, but also neither does Bertram. Yeah. Therefore, Bertram never went back in time and killed Da Vinci. Exactly. Therefore, Stewie never had to create a time machine. He never had to go back in time to save Da Vinci, and therefore, none of it would have happened. It's so...
Fever dream.
No, it is so ridiculous to explain, because it's one of those that I know in my brain, this isn't even a question. It couldn't happen. But when you suspend disbelief and go, okay, I'm going to accept this premise, and this premise,
yep,
it becomes easy to go, yeah, but what if... No, it didn't happen. I know that as fully as I know we're sitting in a room right now, I know that he never would have went back in time to take his own place because he never would have been in threat.
Exactly.
So that's a comforting thing about time. Linear time.
Exactly. So then we have Doctor Who. One of our favorite topics. When it gets fun.
50 plus years they've been making this show.
It is
and I've only known one time that they've created a plot hole instead of a paradox.
Yeah.
And it's bothered me for years. And I implore anyone and everyone, watch the episode if you haven't. Watch it again if you have. And come back and tell me why I'm wrong. The Pandorica.
Oh, goodness.
Now, we could get into Doctor Who about
this.
With Van Gogh. I know you love that when they go back. They expose Van Gogh to his own art, therefore creating what could be affectionately known the Shakespeare paradox, as you were talking about. One of these things where you've exposed an artist to their future art. Does that inform their art to begin with? So it does create a paradox because where did the original idea come from?
Hey, where did I talk about Shakespeare? That was a paradox.
That is a paradox because you haven't talked about him. You've been watching the whole time, and she's never talked about him.
Exactly.
But yet you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Exactly. So my theory about Shakespeare is if you were to go back in time, give him a copy of Hamlet, did he actually write Hamlet, or did you write Hamlet?
Or did you cause Hamlet to be written? Even if you say you give it to him and say, hey, I wrote this, but I want you to publish it.
Exactly.
What happens?
Exactly. There's a couple of different wonderful examples
of it. And those are fun because those are theoretical paradoxes.
Exactly.
Okay? They're ones that you don't invalidate the time travel.
Yep.
Through your actions. Equally to Back to the Future with the sports almanac. We could get into that. We could get really in the weeds in that one. But that being said, none of the actions Biff takes in Back to the Future with the sports almanac invalidates Biff traveling in time.
But Johnny Be Good.
Johnny Be Good. So the idea that Chuck Berry's cousin hears the song being played by a white guy, as put Michael J. Fox, and passes it on to his cousin, definitely seen as problematic, that it was veiled, that maybe a white guy could have written it and all that. But we took most of rock and roll, so why not that one too? But nonetheless, the idea that that Chuck Berry's cousin hears the song, passes it on to his cousin, Chuck Berry, who then plays the song and becomes famous, making it famous in the future so that Michael J. Fox goes back as Marty McFly and plays it at a school dance. Now, once again, this is one of those where you do not invalidate the time travel from the exposure. But the question is, who is the originator of Johnny Be Good?
Exactly.
In that case.
Exactly.
In this case, it's Michael J. Fox.
Yes.
Michael J. Fox invented it.
You going back to Doctor Who with Van Gogh, 11 brings him to the future so that he can validate his Van Gogh's feelings and his impact
to let him know he wasn't. He was also trying to preempt his depression.
Yeah.
He was trying to interfere in a known thing. We won't get into that. We've talked about that in a past episode. Go back, watch our episode on the Doctor and the ambiguity of good and evil. But that being said, he once again doesn't invalidate the time travel. But he does try to preempt the mental health of Van Gogh by reassuring him that what he did mattered.
Exactly.
But I think it's because he makes clear when he does, it's not going to change anything. Van Gogh is always going to take his own life.
Exactly.
Is what he says. So basically, it was a week or so before he was set to take his own life.
But then he sees all the art that he has yet to make. Mm-hmm. So therefore...
He goes back, he feverishly makes all this art, including a new piece.
The exploding TARDIS, which is right here.
Yeah. And that being said, it's always been a big piece in art. We have it hanging in our living room as well. Because we just love that convergence of classic arts and the history, the Doctor Who. Yeah, we know Doctor Who's not real history, but the idea, the conflation of that. That's why we love Outlander by Diana Gabaldon and things like that. That conflating of fiction with actual history.
We hadn't even talked about
I guarantee there's some paradoxes.
Within that.
No, there's conflicts of time interest.
Yeah.
I don't think she invalidated anything. Almost with the duel with Captain Jack. That's what she was afraid of.
Yep.
But, once again, would not have invalidated her going back in time. It would have just rendered her future mate non-existent.
But then
they would have never went on the honeymoon, would have never been there. Therefore, she never would have been back, would have never met Jamie. In that case, would have never driven Jamie to be in a duel where he's the second to a man who, you know.
Exactly. I mean, there were so many parts of that did lend into question. If you haven't seen the series, haven't read the books, go watch Outlander.
We can't explain. It is wonderful, but it's heavy. It's heavy. If you're a historian or a lover of history, Scottish lore, English history, any of that, it's heavy.
She did a great job for research.
She did almost too good that sometimes I find it difficult to watch. That's why we take breaks. It is difficult to watch a lot. Not because it's gruesome. I don't care about gruesome, but because it's so heavy and it makes me so emotionally taxed watching it for too long.
So and because you found out within this, you actually had family that fought at Culloden.
You pointed it out first.
Yeah.
That with Donald and Jenny. Being there from the Clan Cameron back then, that they were involved, and then we did a little research, and I found actually 358 of my clansmen died at Culloden. But that's off topic, but that's what we do here. We go all over the place. It might as well be just named ADHD talk. But the idea, let's get back to paradoxes before we get too far off track, because Doctor Who does present us the best case studies, in my opinion.
Exactly.
Because there is one in particular. You got Van Gogh being exposed to his own art. Doesn't create so much of a paradox as it could create a paradox, but they avoided that. But with the Pandorica, without going too far, I want you to explain to me why I'm wrong, though. If you're watching it, and like I said, you've seen it, go back, watch it again, and just to prove me wrong. It could never have happened.
Yeah.
The Pandorica could never have happened.
I mean,
it was the only plot hole I've ever detected where the Doctor is trapped inside. The Doctor also, he cannot get out. It's made clear it cannot be opened from the outside. At the end, correct? We agree.
Yes.
It says it cannot, it's a prison. Prisons are only meant to keep you in. Okay?
But does he do all of that before he's locked in, and therefore that is how he is able to be released by Rory to put Amy inside?
With a screwdriver. Exactly. He's released from inside, knowing it has to be... Remember, it doesn't stop people from getting in, it stops people from getting out.
Yeah.
That's what it says.
That's what I'm saying, is maybe he knew
all the actions would have... But they don't say it. Therefore, either plot hole, very big, bad plot hole, or they do a poor job of setting up, avoiding a paradox. Because the idea is they make it just too clear.
It's all of
their own... No,
is the Doctor in there, or is he not?
That's the question. The second they close it, is he in there? We're led to believe yes. They give us no information to refute that the Doctor is in the Pandorica when it's sealed.
Until the next episode.
Then the next episode, he's out of the Pandorica, giving Rory a screwdriver to give to Amy to trap Amy in it because they know that the Pandorica will keep her alive because he just shot her. He also has the broom, the fez, the things he took from the museum. They never explain him getting out.
Exactly.
That's the main thing.
They do show that he has Jack's vortex manipulator.
Only when he's jumping around with Rory.
Exactly.
But why would they have ever left that on his wrist in the Pandorica? And they don't explain it.
No.
So either very sloppy for this wonderful organization of evildoers who have thought of every avenue and have finally pinned down the Doctor in a mousetrap he can't get out of, and then suddenly he just gets out of it.
Yeah.
Without a clear line of reason. That's my only one. They both create a paradox, but it is the most glaring plot hole I've ever seen in Doctor Who. And there have been some doozy paradoxes. And, and I am the first often to defend Doctor Who and like, nope, that can be explained. It's this, it's that. This is the only one that cannot be explained as timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly. It is sloppy.
So it's not necessarily the paradox, not necessarily a plot hole we can pin down.
No, but I implore people to view it. If you've seen it yourself, great. Come at me. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me, you dummy, I've watched it 5 times and I saw... How could you have watched it 10 times and missed this one thing? please come at me and let me know why I'm wrong, that there's not a glaring plot hole, and the doctor legitimately got out to then give Rory his screwdriver, one of 2 screwdrivers now that existed at the time, and a vortex manipulator that are all in use, but they never explain how he very simply got out to begin with.
Yeah.
That's all.
So another one we have is the paradox of choice.
That's just a beautiful modern concept.
Yes.
And it is
We have
true.
it.
We have it now.
We have it so many ways in economic. We have it in streaming.
You've got it in video games. You've
yeah.
got it. You went through the paradox of choice when you decided to watch this video
Exactly.
right now. Because there are so many. There are billions of videos. Could have watched any of them.
Exactly.
But how do you know which one? You have time. It's finite. You want to make sure that you use your time wisely, at least in your own mind. You
hey, maybe we're your bathroom watching, you know?
It could be. Hey, we're honored to be here with you, okay? And cover that, okay? But the idea is that the more choices you have, the harder your choices become.
Exactly.
And for anyone who doubts that, walk into your local Walmart and go in the spaghetti sauce aisle. Go pick your favorite spaghetti sauce. Right now. Take just a second. You can't.
No.
Most people can't. Now, there are some people who are like, no, I've had all of these, and I know this one's my favorite. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I guarantee, though, on that wall, if they would have tried every single one, that one's probably not their favorite. There's probably one they would like more, but now there's so many choices, they're never going to try it.
Is when you're going home and you're taking that sauce and you're adding your meatballs, which you probably made yourself, and you probably have your own ingredients that you put into them. You're adding your sausage or your ground meat or whatever it is you're adding to that sauce. You're no longer having that base sauce that you're getting there.
You've totally changed it.
Mm-hmm. So how can you say that base sauce is always going to be your favorite?
But
because you're always changing it.
I'm just saying, you don't think that there's people who go into the store and go, for instance, okay, forget spaghetti sauce, Oreos. We live in the country that has hands down the most flavor of Oreos in the world.
Yeah.
And there's a go-to.
Most stuff.
We're going to get that most of the time.
Why? Because of the filling.
But what if we go in there and there's a new one? What if there's a double stuffed fudge filled Oreo? We might try it once. And or the double stuff, the most stuff but filled with the peanut butter cream now. We're going to go, all right, maybe this time we'll get that. Most of the time we opt for our go-to, but when you're given more choices, it makes the choice harder.
Exactly.
More choices equal harder choices. Whether it's cell phone carrier, who to watch on YouTube, which spaghetti sauce to get tonight for dinner, it doesn't really matter which restaurant to eat. The number of times we've eaten at, I don't know, is just crazy. Because there are just so many choices.
Exactly.
And it's hard. You may have a favorite fried chicken at a place, but maybe the fries at that place are better. And this time that's a little more important to us, or it's a little cheaper, and let's go there. Whatever it is, the more choices you have, the harder your choices are always going to be. So I feel like, is it a paradox? No. The paradox only exists in the supposition that you would have an easier time deciding if you have more choices. That if you just had more options, you could really nail down your favorite. You can't. It becomes harder the more choice. That's the paradox to it, because paradox inherently is a thing that can't happen.
There are so many video games out there. I'd love to try them all,
but you know it's not worth your time.
My favorite is always going to be World of Warcraft. I'm always going to go back to it.
And no matter how many times we go back to a different game and go, wow, this game is clearly better, cleaner, newer, better quests, better talents, all of that. And then after a short while, we're like, but it's not WoW. Like, we're used to, we have 19 and a half years under our belt in one.
We have muscle memory for WoW.
Yeah, and I've told you, right down to the timing. Can matter. How long it takes for you to hit your mount button to when you're able to fly or ride your mount matters.
Exactly.
And when you've been playing the same game for 19 years and the cast time of your mount has changed one time in that time, it becomes very easy to go, I know that when I cast my mount 2 seconds later, I'm ready to go. Unless you're a paladin who's holy and has or a warlock and have a lot of haste. then you might be up and going quicker. But
only if there are Castodons.
That's what I'm saying. Your war. That's why I said paladin or warlock or Death Knight, but they would have to have a lot and just be riding their Cheers Death Charger. But that being said, like, and you'd have to ride your Charger. I know on my main character, it's always going to be 2 seconds. Always. Yeah. Every single time, it's going to be just 2.
All right, so things that aren't really a paradox, but have been misconstrued as that.
I can love those. What do we got?
Time tear.
Okay, so Rose interacting with herself as a baby, where you just basically create a ripple in time that it has to compensate. That's not, and once again, this is entirely theoretical since we've not done it that we know of. So therefore, we understand that time and the timeline would have to compensate.
Exactly.
The only time it would create a paradox is if you try to kill yourself as a baby.
Yeah.
Touching yourself would do nothing other than create a ripple effect that we theorize. We don't know that it would do anything because what's the inherent danger other than 2 of the same person occupying the same space, but at the same time, from a physics perspective, you're not occupying the same space.
So what about with Mickey? Mickey finds Mickey's grandmother dies in his main world. Mm-hmm. He goes over to another universe or another timeline with
Martha.
No, with Rose and
Ten. Yep.
And that's the Cyberman incursion.
Yep.
And his grandmother's alive there. He meets himself, but that character, his alternate, gets killed. He ends up
taking his place.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's not a paradox, but it's kind of a...
And you would think that while they were talking to each other in the van, something would have happened. If something had to happen when she touched herself as a baby.
Yeah.
All of a sudden we had weird, evil gargoyle demons.
Exactly.
Why did nothing happen when Mickey and Ricky?
Yeah, and then why did Jackie be able to go and replace Jackie later on in the series?
They don't even exist in that timeline, in that dimension, essentially. You could call it a different timeline, multiverse, dimension, whatever you want to call it, plane of existence. Essentially a carbon copy of Earth, Earth 2, they're there, and they can't, they take their own place.
Exactly.
And once again, not a paradox, but as you see, a time tear. And I call it that because that's how it's presented in World of Warcraft, in Doctor Who. It's presented as when you do that, when you just do something time doesn't like, you create a time tear or some kind of catastrophe.
Yeah.
So
then we have irony.
Yeah. Irony is something often, and we're not going to get into what and why, but paradoxes are not just when something ironic happens. That's not a paradox.
It's
when something
not an
weird happens.
Song.
Yeah, it's not. None of those, and none of those are ironic either. A paradox is just as ironic as any of the things listed in Alanis Morissette's ironic. That they're not, and I used it as shorthand when we took notes. I just used it to say, that it's not a plot hole is not irony or is not a paradox. Irony is not a paradox. These are things that just happen and are often just kind of shrugged off as a paradox. They're not. Or plot holes in general, as we said, not a paradox in itself. Now, you can have a plot hole that creates a paradox. Because since a paradox is entirely hypothetical, it doesn't mean its actual implications on time for it to be a paradox. You can still create a paradox of theory just in doing something. Rose in that episode that I was referencing, not only does she touch herself, she prevents her own dad from being killed. We talk about this in a previous episode as well.
Exactly.
That does upset things. You have to think about, even in the best case scenario, that next 20 years of time is now fluctuating and having to realign.
Yeah, because her mom also knows now that she saved him, 2, she sat there by his side as he died. Mm-hmm.
Why doesn't Jackie remember her in the future?
Exactly.
Why doesn't Jackie saw her actual face 20 years ago in this timeline?
Exactly.
She saw her face.
And that should be...
Why didn't Marty McFly's dad get pissed off that his son, when he becomes a teenager, looks just like the guy who was screwing around with his wife.
Supposedly screwing around.
That's what I'm saying. That he thought was for a little while. So why did they just seem to forget? That would be the idea that when they've straightened out the timeline, that any memory of the previous timeline is erased.
Yeah.
That would be the only explanation, and therefore I think a dirty, dirty plot hole.
So then another one, it's not a plot hole, it's not a paradox, but it is leave a question that a lot of people ask.
Okay.
They're big.
Uh-huh.
They can fly.
Okay.
Why didn't they just go into Mordor?
Oh, Lord of the Rings.
The Eagles.
The Eagles in Lord of the Rings. Not a paradox, as you said, but it creates a plot hole. It creates such a big gaping question that it begs the question, why not? Why didn't they? Now, you could say narratively, well, they've had a better story not doing it. That's easy.
Well, yeah,
and we're not trying to be Clerks too.
Either way, they had to fight the war.
Either
the war
way,
had to be fought. They had to get rid of the trolls.
But their action could have been simplified.
Exactly.
Very easily. And now I say it's a plot hole because, yes, it's a literary device that they use this and they go on this epic journey. And if they would have just flown the Eagles there, all they have to do is explain why.
And then drop it over.
But explain why the Eagles can't do it.
Exactly.
That's all.
I mean, maybe
That's
they're hibernating.
all they have to do. Why didn't they just tie the ring to the neck of a sheep and walk the sheep across the country?
Yeah.
Like, something like that. Any of those would have sufficed, but all they had to do was give an example of why the Eagles couldn't fly there.
Exactly.
Why it had to be done now and we can't use Eagles.
The Clerks asks that question,
But all I'm going to say is I'm not trying to be Clerks. I'm not trying to be poignant and let's get real creative and act. All I'm saying is we could have avoided this being a plot hole with just a simple statement. It's kind of like in any of the others with the Pandorica, with any of these, we could have just avoided it with just one little explanation. The celebrity paradox in Friends. With just a glance and a double take, everything would have been an Easter egg. Everything would have been fine.
Exactly.
In this, they could have done one little thing. I don't know what the explanation is. I'm not
Were
the
they
writer.
On the other side of the world?
Why
Were they on the other side of the map? Hibernating?
The Eagles were they migrated. They couldn't do it right now.
Exactly.
But they're going to be back, but we got to go now. And it wasn't supposed to take as long as it took, so you were still going to be done the job before the Eagles came back. So you weren't supposed to take months to do this. It was supposed to be just a couple weeks, but y'all are slow and you got big feet. Like, it could have been whatever. Could have been the reason why.
Yeah.
But when you fail to answer those questions is when you create the paradox. You also threw out the simplest one of, what about in Blink for Doctor Who? How did Sally Sparrow know? Well, how did the Doctor know every one of Sally Sparrow's responses so that he could respond on a pre-recorded video?
She got a hold of the time machine, traveled to him, met him, handed him a book of responses that her friend had written down, and therefore that's how it ended up weirdly happening. I mean, that was the explanation.
And see, that's the time when they sloppily gave it.
Exactly.
Rather than just, he's a Time Lord. Okay? That one didn't require much explanation. I never questioned it because to me, I was able to accept that premise that he's a Time Lord. He could have just kept jumping back and seeing what she said. I don't know. Without interacting with her, therefore not invalidating the timeline. Because once he interweaves with the timeline, he's stuck there. He cannot leave. Which I've never understood that either. Why he goes to the past, sees something happen, and doesn't go, oh, give me a minute. I'm going to go 5 minutes back further and go take care of this. Because once those events are in place, even though time's not linear to the Doctor, it has to remain that way for our stupid human minds to understand it. That if the Doctor goes back and at noontime the aliens come, and if he would have just had 5 more minutes, he could have been prepared. Why he doesn't just get back in the machine, go 10 minutes back and go, I'm going to take my time and I'm going to be prepared for them because I already know it's coming. Because as soon as that information is tied to that moment he's in.
I mean, he does do that in a couple episodes.
Exactly.
But I do not
like
have
when he's sideways, when he can't get out of the TARDIS when he's on a ship. Remember that? He opens, he's at a wall, he goes back in, fires it back up, it dematerializes and materializes with the door facing another way. Showing he absolutely can. Once he's in a timeline, he's not trapped there. It's not Quantum Leap. He can jump in and out whenever he wants.
Isn't Quantum Leap full of paradoxes?
Oh, absolutely.
And
Quantum Leap is just a ridiculous premise.
One?
Quantum Leap itself is a ridiculous premise, and I won't talk about the specifics because it has been decades since I've watched this show.
I agree.
But I know for a fact there are tons, because the main idea is that he's jumping back merely into the consciousness of somebody, not even as them. His body is still way back in the lab. His consciousness is jumping through time into the minds of always either famous or horrible people.
So isn't the same concept with Assassin's Creed?
Kind of. Yeah, his physical body is one place, but he can only jump back into the minds of the people he has genetics shared with, which harkens back to, you are one of the only people on Earth who can attest to this, that I had a theory long before Assassin's Creed, or the Aspergo, is it Aspergo? The company, that they use in it, before they even were games, that there's a thing such as genetic memory. That there is an idea that if my ancestors knew or did something long enough, or yours, it's not me, that there's inherent code written in our DNA that allows for that. Whether that is to fight the Black Plague, or to ride a horse, or to shoot a bow and arrow. I feel like there are certain things that if your ancestors did it enough, there is an innate natural adeptness to it. I'm not saying your ancestor shot a bow and arrow was really good, so his great-grandson's going to be really good. That's crazy. I'm just saying I feel like there is genetic memory that gives you a disposition to have a natural affinity for certain things. And it's just a theory, and then here they come out with games and movies and ideas that you have a memory, that you can jump back into the consciousness of your own ancestors because you share genetic sequencing. And all of this came about, of course, after CRISPR in the early 90s, when we got gene sequencing. And the amount of progress we've had in just not even 30 years is absolutely insane. So I look forward to the next 30 years.
So we have 2 from World of Warcraft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have 2 that really stood out to us.
Absolutely.
Even. And that was the Jailer with the Lich King.
Mm-hmm.
We believe...
The Jailer created the Lich King.
Believe that he created him.
No, I mean, that's what they tell us.
Controlled him.
Yeah.
But then we also had the idea that it was Moradon. Not Moradon.
Morazon?
No,
I was going to say, we're talking 2 different paradoxes here.
The Lich King he met up with that demon. Mal'Ganis.
He's a Dreadlord. Yeah. Which, if you go back, all of them basically come down to the Dreadlords. But, so, the idea is Zoval, the Jailer, he was an Arbiter, the Arbiter being the one responsible for sorting out the afterlife. Yeah. You go up, and they show us 4, but the idea is that there's at least 20 or 30 afterlives. And that's why there's people that we also don't see. But it harkens on 5, essentially. You have your Purgatory being the Maw, and 4 separate ones. We're not going to get into that. Maybe we'll go into that in another day, and their actual likenesses, like how Bastion is the Elysian Fields.
Yes.
So the idea, though, is that they float him to us as an antagonist, because none of us knew who the Jailer was. We go into Shadowlands, and this is one of the reasons for the commercial failure of it, dislike, community hate of it. We go into Shadowlands. We felt nothing for the Jailer. We knew nothing of him.
It was the first time we'd ever heard of him.
We'd never heard of him. When we went into Wrath of the Lich King, we knew who Arthas was. When we went into Burning Crusade, by then we had been built up to know who Illidan was. We were let to know this was an epic hero or villain that we are now going against. Almost all of them, Sylvanas, Garrosh, they gave them backstory. They didn't give Jailer backstory, and then when they did, it was garbage.
So we go into each one of the seasons. Expansions of World of Warcraft, having a backstory, having a tie together for each one of them.
Our BBEG, essentially. Our big bad endgame boss.
But the one that they left out giving us a major story for, to bring us into...
to make us feel something.
Shadowlands.
I felt nothing.
And then, honestly, I'm not going to lie, from there, the dragon felt
all those dragons felt like, who are they?
It's like,
I know who all the aspects are, but now you're telling me there's these other dragons who are just as powerful?
How did they tie in with, past Shadowlands? So that's why a lot of people's theories, is that Shadowlands is going to be the next remix so that they can tie it together and explain it better to us.
Well, we'll see, but I don't feel like I don't feel that the evidence has bared out for that yet. But we'll see. But the idea is that we have you have Zoval is floated to us as basically the big bad to end all big bads. Yep. He's been responsible for every big bad so far. The Lich King, Gul'dan, all of them, it's his fault. He's been controlling them the whole time.
So
because
basically Shadowlands is our biggest plot hole
within really our
storyline of
the idea is that
game.
He could not have existed. We would not have gotten to this point in the end game without the actions of heroes who only existed because of the preceding villains that he supposedly created. So either he's playing 8 billion D chess, or it's impossible for him to have preceded any of these other big bads. Yeah. We know the Lich King did not exist because of Zoval. But the way they floated it to us is that he is responsible for all of them. And it was kind of just a sloppy retcon that even Blizzard is portraying as a paradox.
Exactly.
So
then the last
but the other one is.
The last one we have is Nozdormu.
Moruzond. Yeah.
Yeah.
Moruzond. Yes, it is scrambled.
And see, that's also another one that I see, even though it's a paradox that those two could exist, I also feel it's a major plot hole and a major missed opportunity because we get to experience the Bronze Dragonflight and learn about everything that the Bronze Dragonflight has to do, and that's all time and paradoxes, plot holes, stuff like that.
And preserving the true timeline.
And then they do that one quest line. No, they stop. We hear nothing more about the Bronze Dragonflight. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, but I really believe the Bronze Dragonflight could play a bigger role within the game.
And they leave them on the sidelines so much. I agree, but it's too easy. If they use the Bronze Dragonflight for everything, come on. If that's not too easy, that's not us just taking the TARDIS back to fix all of our problems every time.
I mean, in the aspect of we have no clue. I mean,
Nozdormu sees all realities and he has no clue. Remember, how many times
he's Doctor Strange.
How many times has it been fuzzy? How many times it's just unclear what's going to happen? Nozdormu is one of the most cynical of any of the aspects, which you would appreciate.
Yeah.
He knows all things. Every timeline, he knows every grain of sand of everyone's life, including his own. He knows the day he dies. He knows how and he knows why.
And he knows that he becomes a dark dragon.
A dark version of himself. And yet still takes all the actions to become the dark version of himself, strictly just because of his zealotry to the idea that he must preserve this one true timeline that we have no issue messing up for any number of reasons.
Or for anybody else.
For anybody else. But we can't save Nozdormu.
Right.
Who could technically rewind time to before Deathwing screwed them all over. But won't. Because it would undo time.
Right.
And also create an inescapable paradox.
So, and there was one that I kind of missed writing down, and it's kind of been a major discussion for us all throughout our entire time knowing each other. That's Highlander.
Oh, gosh. Are we really doing this?
Oh, we're doing this, aren't we?
Come on. All right. The main one I would say in Highlander is... I've always written it off as a plot hole, but let's field it as a paradox. What's created, and this is sometimes you can do a paradox test of something, and that's what I do. And that's let's run through the logical thoughts, and if it can't happen, if this is impossible, we've created a paradox. And now, if we're talking about a narrative tool, it's probably just a plot hole. So in the first one, Connor has to fight the Kurgan.
And we're talking about the movies, not
this is the movies,
TV show.
And yeah, we won't even bring in the TV show because later on they make movies that further conflate the timeline that without needing to bring in the series, which is wonderful.
I think the last movie is actually tied to the TV show itself. That's why
the last two are tied to the TV show.
So that's why it gets a little flater. We're talking about the earlier movies with Christopher Lambert.
Christopher Lambert with Connor McLeod. and the one that Henry Cavill will be soon undertaking. So we, Connor, it's in the 80s. Connor is faced with the Kurgan. The Kurgan being an ancient foe who killed his first wife, Heather. Okay, he has to fight him. Now, they are the last two immortals. We know this. They tell us it over and over. Once Sean Connery's character, Ramirez, is killed, Jose Juan Villalobos Ramirez. Yeah. Once he's taken out, it leaves him. In the 80s, it's just those two. They're alone. He's already dead. All the others are dead. It is just the Kurgan and Connor McLeod. Connor at this time is roughly almost 500 years old. Now, that being said, he kills the Kurgan. He becomes the last of the immortals. He gains the eternal prize. That prize is he can now die, essentially, is basically it. He, inherits all the knowledge of all immortals who ever lived. He now knows essentially everything.
Yeah.
And he can now grow old, he can have children, and he can die a human being, but with the knowledge of all time.
So...
or all time of human beings existing.
So then here comes the paradox when you add in the TV show.
Not even. Add in the second one. Well, we're not going to talk about the second. We do not talk about the second one. Add in the Highlander 3. Let's not talk about the show. You said we're going to talk about just the movies. We're ignoring the second. To anyone who is at all a Highlander fan, not canon. Let's go to 3. 3 follows the same premise as the first one. There's no planet Zeiss. There's no aliens. There's no... Mario Van Peebles plays an immortal who's been trapped underground under collapsed rubble in a Chinese temple for 300 years.
He's the one that basically comes and walks underwater, isn't he?
Yes. Okay. That being said, let's forget everything else that's wrong with it, all the other plot holes. How is Connor ever the last immortal in the 80s if 300 years ago an immortal got trapped under these rocks? Which then bring in the television show, and you've got 7 seasons of immortals who have been alive, varying from new immortals who were born in the 70s to immortals who are as old as 5,000 years old and were mistaken for the original 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Therefore, he's been alive. Mythos has been alive 5,000 years. Darius, for lack of better information, I want to say it was 1,200 or something like that. Yep. So they existed. Now, Duncan was born in 1492. How was Connor the last one in the 80s if Duncan ends up being the last one in the source? Or if Duncan has to kill Connor in Endgame just to be powerful enough to be the only Highlander so that he can fight it. So, there can be only one a reference to Highlanders? Or is it a reference to immortals? It's taken as to mean immortals. But in Endgame, they kind of make it clear that they need to merge themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's no reason, technically, that Duncan had to be the one versus Connor.
So, are we stuck with plot holes there, or are we stuck with paradoxes?
I'm calling that plot holes. Poor writing, because they just kept going off the deep end and trying to expand on a universe that was perfect the way it was. The show was perfect, and I have little doubt that the reboot of the movie will be wonderful. I will watch it. And that does bring us to a very important topic. Our first ever viewer nominated.
Geek of the Week. Let's give him a round of applause for actually
to our viewer. We won't name him right here, just for his privacy, but one of our first viewers and first fans and supporters. In fact, one of the ones who encouraged us, sit here on the couch. Don't worry about trying to look all professional. He's like, this is what it's about. It's you guys being casual. So he said Henry Cavill. Both based on the videos he makes of PC builds and how entertaining it can be, his work as, whether it's Superman, his upcoming work as,
the Highlander,
Connor McLeod,
Witcher.
Or The Witcher. And he's a WoW player.
He's a geek.
He is a geek through and through and unashamed. He is unashamedly a geek.
Love it.
He loves being a geek. He loves being a spearhead for the geeks. And we're okay with it. I accept him.
And we also want to throw in a rest in peace to Anthony Head.
Yes.
We
Anthony
just found
Head,
out
you just
today,
found out, did pass.
He passed away, and he was also
Buffy,
one of the spearheads
Arthur.
for...
Yeah, King Arthur in Merlin. Well, he was his dad. He was, yeah. But Uther. Uther Pendragon in that. So, yeah, I mean, but Buffy, he was huge in that. I mean, what else?
He was in Doctor Who.
Doctor Who, yes, he did play in Doctor Who. So, that being said, yeah, Anthony Head, an honorary, we'll throw you. You could be Geek of the Week, too.
Rest in peace for him.
Rest in peace.
But,
yeah.
Henry Cavill is
is the Geek of the Week.
Geek of the Week.
So, thank you, viewer, for nominating, and here's looking at you.
Bye, guys.